Skype by commentator on information and communications technologies, Arthur Goldstuck. Arthur, very good morning to you. How much of a crisis is this cyber attack for Liberty? Hackers are now threatening to publish bits of information every day until Liberty pays them.
It's a crisis on an unimaginable scale if you consider the various levels of the threat. The very first is the fact that the systems and servers of Liberty were compromised, and clearly that means that security policies weren't firmly in place. The second big issue is the scale of customer data that may be revealed. And they do say that there have been no financial losses, but that's only for now. Because if all of that information is published online and is made available to any other cyber criminals who want to manipulate or use that information, they can begin, for example, to impersonate customers, try to change policies, try to change bank accounts. So that's one thing, for example, where Liberty is going to have to be very vigilant. Any attempt to change beneficiary bank accounts is going to have to be scrutinized very closely, because there will be a very high chance that that will be the work of cyber criminals. The third really big issue for Liberty, though, is what happens with customers who decide that they can't risk their financial lives with this entity that has been hacked. And part of the reason why people are going to be nervous and suspicious is because Liberty chose to wait 2 days before revealing the hack. They ideally should have, the moment it happened, the moment they were aware of the scope of it and had the threat, they should have gone public with that. I do hear their reasons for not doing so, but generally speaking, the very first rule of a major breach of this nature is instant public disclosure, so that people can choose for themselves what precautions to take, like changing passwords, for example. And that is the very first thing that every customer has to do if they have a log-on with Liberty, is change their passwords for their log-on to that site, especially where it's access to policy information.
It's interesting that the hackers say their aim is to improve security and not to steal from the customer. One can't help suspect that it's an inside job. What's your take on this?
Well, firstly, that's a very disingenuous claim, because the moment you're threatening to put customer information online and make it available to others, your intentions are anything but pure. If they were simply saying that they did this to show the weaknesses and to get Liberty to improve their security precautions and policies, then they certainly wouldn't be threatening the Liberty customer. But that's in effect what they are doing.
What effect has this had on other data-driven companies? And most companies are planning to go that route in any case these days. Any
data-driven company has to have state-of-the-art security. But I do believe that this is going to result in every insurance company suddenly taking extra precautions and suddenly investing a lot more time, at least, and effort, and possibly investment in upgrading their systems. But I think the problem up to now has been that the perception has been that banks are vulnerable, because that's where transactional information lies, and insurance companies that typically are not transactional, aside from monthly debit orders and the like, have not seen themselves vulnerable. And any other financial institution is going to have to become extremely vigilant.
Arthur, kids at school, in primary school these days, are learning coding. How easy or difficult is it for hackers to break into company IT security systems?
There's a vast leap from being able to code to being able to break into systems. But having said that, there are sites, especially on what they call the dark web. If you can use a special browser that allows you to access this version of the web that can't be tracked or traced. And there you'll find numerous sites with tools that you can either buy or even download for free that allow you to attempt to hack into sites. So they have this concept. Your question isn't far off. The concept is of kiddie coders people who know nothing about coding, but get hold of these hacking tools and try to break into sites just to show that they can do it.
So what is the possible financial impact on Liberty from this event?
The biggest threat is people having access to customers' account details and then trying to use those details in two ways. The one is to break into their accounts or access their accounts and change details, in particular banking details for beneficiary information. So have policies paid out into fraudulent accounts. That's the most direct threat. But the other threat, and a key threat, is the possibility that you might have that same information being used to try to access other websites, banking sites, for example, because typically people use the same login information for all their financial sites. Even if not, the information may include access or may include details on bank accounts that can then be used to fraudulently access those accounts.
And just in closing, Arthur, have ways been found to protect one or companies from cyber attacks?
There are many ways, and in fact, if you use state-of-the-art security, then you shouldn't be vulnerable to an attack, although it is an arms race. The hackers keep finding new ways to get through. So the real key is for companies holding financial information and customer data to ensure that their systems are up to date and state-of-the-art at all times. There's no resting place, there's no relaxation to be had for anyone involved in cybersecurity or in securing customer data. And the moment they do relax is when they become vulnerable to hackers.
It's a developing story, and we'll keep watching the outcomes there for you. Thank you so much for your time. Commentator on information and communications technologies, Arthur Goldstuck.